Welcome to St. Pete Decides City Council Candidate Forum, live from City Council chambers on St. Pete TV. Brought to you by the League of Women Voters.
I'll be moderating the forum tonight, assisted by Pat Wood and my colleagues around the room, recognizable by their League of Women Voters buttons. If you would like to submit a question for the candidates, please raise your hands and raise them high, and a League staff member will be around to assist you. Helping to provide for an informed electorate is an important goal, perhaps the most important goal of the League of Women Voters. And this is one that you clearly share with us, signified tonight by your presence here as candidates and as members of the audience. You'll find League membership information at the entryway, and I remind you that men have been welcomed as members since 1974. Additional information about the League is available on our website at lwvspa.org. Please consider joining us in all of the work that we do. Voter registration for the November 3rd general election closed on September 29th. There will not be early voting for this election. As usual, though, vote-by-mail ballots are available upon request until the deadline at 5 p.m. on October 28th. Council seats are open in 4 of the city's 8 single-member districts. Tim Montanari was the only candidate to apply and qualify for the District 3 seat vacated by Bill Dudley due to term limits. Therefore, this district will not appear on the November ballot. The candidates with us this evening are running for the remaining open seats in Council Districts 1, 5, and 7. Before introducing the candidates tonight, I'll provide some information about the city, and I'll go over the rules and format for tonight's forum, which the candidates did receive in advance of the forum tonight. I'll also have some instructions for you in the audience. The city of St. Petersburg was reincorporated in 1903 and is the 4th largest city in Florida with a population of approximately 250,000 in 2013. It operates under a strong mayor form of government, a system that combines the strong political leadership of a mayor with an elected city council. The council serves as the legislative branch for the city of St. Petersburg and has a chair and vice chair. The council approves city policies, city budget, and confirms the mayor's appointments for city administrator, city attorney, and city clerk. City council members are elected by the voters in their districts during the primary election and voted on at large in the general election. Council members serve 4-year terms of office and are limited to 2 consecutive terms. Their annual salary is $40,485. The format for this evening's forum was chosen to give you, the audience, a chance to hear views on a wider range of questions than would otherwise be possible in our allotted time. So I will not be asking the same question of all 6 candidates for each round. Instead, I'll begin by directing the first question to the entire panel. I'll direct the following 3 questions to candidates by district, progressing to a different set of candidates with each new question. I'll repeat the sequence for the duration of the forum. 1 minute will be allotted for each reply. Each candidate has 3 wildcard opportunities for a 1-minute response to questions not directed towards his or her district by simply raising a wild card during that round of questioning. If time permits, I may introduce lightning round questions to which candidates will offer brief 1- or 2-word answers. A minute and a half will be allowed for closing statements, the order of which has been determined by coin toss. Some housekeeping. The views expressed by the candidates tonight do not represent those of the League of Women Voters or this forum's sponsor, the City of St. Petersburg. I ask that you all turn your cell phones off and remain quiet throughout the entire forum. I also ask that you hold your applause until the candidates deliver their closing statements tonight. All audio and/or videotaping of this forum is prohibited without the express prior consent of the League of Women Voters. A panel behind me tonight is here to review questions for legibility, clarity, and applicability. We'll use as many questions as time allows. But if your question does not get asked, please do take advantage of opportunities to follow up with the candidates following the forum tonight. We are always sorry when we're unable to ask every question, but we really do appreciate and are very gratified by the strong level of civic engagement on all of the issues. I'd like to remind everyone that these, that these are nonpartisan races and that each of these districts will appear on every ballot to be voted on by every registered St. Petersburg voter, regardless of the district in which they live. Now let's welcome the 6 candidates running for St. Petersburg City Council in Districts 1, 5, and 7. In District 1, we have Charlie Gertis and Monica Abbott. In District 5, we have Steve Cornell and Philip Garrett. And in District 7, we have Lisa Wheeler-Brown and Will Newton. On with the first question, and I'll begin with you, candidate Gertis. We're going to start with a very positive question, and this will apply to all candidates, please. Since moving to St. Petersburg 2 years ago, I have found life to be good. Good quality of life, a lot to do, and safe neighborhoods. How do you propose to improve on that?
I'm so happy that you moved here, and I'm so happy that you have moved here during a time where the city is really finding itself in terms of direction and vision. We have to continue doing what we're doing, but the biggest thing that we need to do to ensure that our city maintains this trajectory, this positive trajectory of energy and enthusiasm, is to follow through on what's been dubbed the Smart Growth Plan. This is a plan that the Chamber and the city have put together, both of us contributing money and resources, and this study is a roadmap to targeting and obtaining quality businesses that pay higher wage jobs and benefits and having them choose St. Petersburg as their home. So we need to get on the playing field of economic development and acquire those businesses to make St. Pete their home like you did.
Well, I drove here down Fifth Avenue North tonight, and I went by St. Vincent's, and underneath St. Vincent's were a mass of homeless people, and I would like to work on that issue as a city council member. It's gotten worse. The recession really propelled that. People lost their homes. I'd like to see people who lost their homes back in as homeowners. My neighborhood has got a lot of zombie houses, a lot of empty houses, blight, and rentals. I want to go back to when it's owner-occupied and the people really care and improve. Additionally, I have on my agenda to work on the alleys, which they have already started to do, so thank you.
First of all, I think every neighborhood has to offer equal opportunity. We cannot afford to have places in our city where there's crushing discrimination and poverty and institutionalized over decades kinds of things. We have to be the generation that corrects that right now, right this second. We need to get that corrected. We don't want to be a city for tourists, where tourists come and see one view of our city, and then some of our people who live here have a completely different view. I think we have to commit to that and move forward on that. I think also bringing in jobs, and I agree with what Councilman Gertis said, and to that I would add also growing some of our own. We have some phenomenal business people here. We're keeping our young creative people here now. We need to help them grow, and for example, Kawa Coffee could become the next Starbucks. We need to help that, facilitate that, and make that happen, and I believe I have a strong vision for continuing to push that direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much for becoming a resident of the city of St. Petersburg. Any time is a great time to become a resident of the city of St. Petersburg. We are in the time where we're revitalizing our city and we're growing. So there are a lot of opportunities for you to grow and fit in. And I would encourage you to find a place and become politically active. As we revitalize, we must assure that all residents and all citizens receive quality services, less taxes, and lower fees as we revitalize. And I'd ask that you take part in this process. Some of our areas are suffering. District 5 has 3 shopping centers in which they're anywhere from 20 to 60% vacant. So speak out to your city councilmen and ask that we start redeveloping the districts outside of the downtown area and become a part of the city of St. Petersburg.
Like he said, thank you for moving to our beautiful city. One thing we need to do is to continue to make our city safe. We need to continue to work with our law enforcement officers in order to bridge the relationship between the community and the officers. And we have to remember economic development. The recession isn't over for everyone. There are people that are still struggling. They are working 40 hours a week, and no one who works 40 hours a week should have to worry about putting food on their tables or keeping a roof over their head. Thank you.
Welcome to the city, and thank you. It would be my pleasure to make sure the experience that you're having is enjoyed by all of our citizens. That is not exactly the case in District 7. Over half of the population lives at or below the federal poverty line. I would like to improve upon the experience you're having for everyone else and truly make this a seamless city. By doing so, we can implement the Community Redevelopment Act that we currently have for the South Side. And I think that that experience that you're experiencing will be the same or better for all of our citizens. We have unemployment and underemployment within District 7. So we do have challenges, and your perspective of what you're experiencing is not a wholesale experience for all of our citizens. But once you elect me, I can work towards changing that.
The next question will be directed specifically to District 1, but other candidates, I'll remind you, if you would like to also answer, you may use one of your wild cards. This question will begin with candidate Abbott, please. If elected, what city council action would you initiate regarding homelessness in St. Petersburg?
Well, I think we've got to get all of the different groups that are involved in homelessness together, and mental health has a lot to do with it. Cliff Smith, who is the social services director, has started a great initiative to get out and try to find out if any of these people are vets. And we need to build on that. And just coming by the St. Vincent's tonight, it just seems like more could be done even tonight to get them engaged in something more productive than just kind of hanging around under the bridge out there. I'm not sure exactly what I would do, but I do know there are a lot of resources. I think they have to be coordinated better. I do think it takes a lot of mental health issues and health issues in general. Thank you.
There is a coordinating agency. It's called the Homeless Leadership Board, and it's a coordinated body of elected officials and funders and providers in the service community. That board meets once a month. There's committees under that board, and they're working very hard. But here's what we need to do. We have about 3,700 homeless children in Pinellas County. 2,400 or so of them are in the city of St. Petersburg. Homeless children. They can't do good in school unless they have a roof over their head. And if they don't do well in school, their life is starting out behind already. We need to focus on homeless families because the shelters we have are for individuals. And so there are programs being designed right now to target homeless families with children so we can give these children a chance. That's what we need to do.
Seeing no wild cards raised, we'll continue. Next to District 5, and candidate Garrett will ask you to answer first on this, please. As city infrastructure has been repeatedly underfunded, what action do you advocate to rectify infrastructure problems like the control of sewage?
Very important question. Great question. The Clam Bayou in District 5, which also covers District 7 and the city of Gulfport, had a big problem this year. Approximately 34 million gallons of waste was pumped into the Clam Bayou. It took 18 years to clean the Clam Bayou. 18 years. The state was involved, the city was involved, the Gulfport was involved, and in the week of heavy rains, we ruined that Gulfport area, that Clam Bayou area. And what we must do is show greater leadership in repairing the infrastructure. We must do it now. The residents in that area are suffering right now because they haven't had sufficient answers to this problem and no solution.
Well, let me just tell you what won't improve the infrastructure. Sound bites. I'm going to cut your taxes and fix every sewer pipe in the city all right now. Good sound bites, but not necessarily feasible. We need to invest as much as possible. First of all, on the sewer pipes, I would support the CRA being extended, the in-town CRA, only if it was used to fix sewer pipes in that area. That's the oldest area of our city. That would make a lot of sense. Then we would get matching funds from the county to go with that. I would support that. I would not support it for just about any other reason. I think that's important. I also think it's very important that we understand that we made some decisions. We made a decision to close Albert Whitted, and we had that spill at the plant where we moved millions of gallons of extra sewage. We need to look at that decision scientifically with good independent scientists reviewing that. And I've pushed, if you read the paper at all, you know that I've pushed very hard for that to happen.
Thank you. Next question is for District 7, and we'll ask candidate Newton to go first, please. How would you urge the city to move forward on the waterfront master plan while dealing with the Rays and the Grand Prix?
Wonderful question. Well, they would do so carefully. The downtown master plan is in full gear. I support that plan. The issue of the Rays and the Grand Prix, however, is a little bit more complicated. I think we are definitely capable of dealing with more than one issue at a time. So I have confidence in the current council to be able to address those issues and move forward. And if those things are still around when I'm here, I will do the same. So I support the downtown master plan. We have a great relationship with our partners in the Grand Prix, and we're working through our differences with our partners, the Rays.
I would just say work together and keep communicating. You have to keep the communication open. One thing that is important when you're on city council, you have to build those relationships where you are able to work with other individuals in order to get things done, not only for your district, but also for your community, your city. So that's very important to me. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be asked of all candidates across the board. So we are going to start again with candidate Gertis, please. What is the most misunderstood thing about you? And clarify it, please.
Wow.
Wow. Most misunderstood thing about me. Maybe my wife would be better to answer this question.
There is no phone a friend during this.
Yeah, no phone a friend.
I think, in the current environment, probably my strong advocacy on allowing the Rays to look. I think people believe that I want to allow the Rays to look because I don't care if they leave. That is completely opposite of where I'm coming from. I want to allow the Rays to look because I believe that when you lay out the pros and cons of a St. Petersburg location, namely the existing location, we've got a very good argument to make as to why the Rays should stay here. And I want them to stay here way past 2027. That's the reason I'm trying to lead on this issue.
Candidate Abbott.
Well, for me, I think it would be the civil action that I filed against the city of St. Petersburg around this time last year, I believe it was. That's gotten a lot of different press and misinformation about it. I filed it in regard to keeping if you're going to have a 3-minute open forum time, which is what we do in the city of St. Pete, then everybody should have their 3 minutes, no more, no less. You're not allowed to share it with anyone else. And that was what I filed. in circuit court, and I filed it. It's kind of a David and Goliath story for sure, but I filed it on behalf of myself and the public trust for all of you, because at that point in time, it was not being enforced. Thank you.
Sure. Well, one of the things, I'm a school social worker. I'm a Pinellas County school social worker. And one thing that I think is misunderstood across the country is that public school employees are going to need to be a part of the solution to public education. Somehow we've gotten this idea that the teachers and the social workers, the people doing the job day in, day out, don't need to be consulted because we've got people so much smarter than them that can just be, if you ran a bank or you ran any kind of manufacturing company, you're automatically smarter than any teacher. And that's harmful on so many levels. And I think, so one of the things people misunderstood about me coming in was I had a lot of people come up to me and say, you know, Steve, we were pleasantly surprised with you. You're pretty good on business. You know, a lot of, and that's why Mayor Baker, former Mayor Baker has endorsed me. The realtors have endorsed me because they've understood that I've done a good job for the business community as well. And you know, all those smart business people need to step back for a second and realize they had a teacher that taught them. They didn't know it coming out of the womb. They had a teacher that taught them everything they know.
You know, when I think of that question, a lot of people can be defensive in a lot of their shortcomings, a lot of issues or problems that they have to face as leaders, and they can tend to be extremely defensive. What I've learned about myself in this process is that just because you receive a great deal of money from interest groups or unions or parties that you may be more qualified. Well, I want to break the process, the political process in this town, to say that just because you get a lot of donations, you are more qualified than the other. Right now, I've realized that one of my misunderstandings in this campaign is that I'm not a part of a big group, so I shouldn't be qualified. But my history and my experience of 25 years in government and being endorsed by the Tampa Bay Times says that I am more than qualified.
That's a great question. And I think that what people kind of or some people misunderstand about me is that they think that I believe that the murder of my son qualifies me to run for council. And in actuality, what that murder did was it enabled me, it forced me to get involved in my community. I became my neighborhood president. I am the immediate past president of CONA, the Council of Neighborhood Associations, doing things I would have never done. And with that comes leadership. And leadership is not a position or a title. It's an action and it's an example. And that is what I show. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what was probably most misunderstood is that I'm a no vote for the raise. I haven't even had a chance to vote. There was some flyer going around or some mailer that came through my opponent's camp through what I believe to be coordination, and they addressed me as being a no vote for the raise and a few other things. The reality is that this council voted unanimously to support the Carter G. Woodson Museum by purchasing it. This council, which my brother's a part of, voted unanimously to fund the Carter G. Woodson Museum with a line of $32,000. So, you know, when it comes to the raise, what I'm looking for and what you need is a council member that knows the real deal, and when he sees the real deal, he'll be able to vote for it. Because ultimately, it has to be something that's best for the citizens and represents the sacrifice and the commitment made of all the people of this city. So maybe the misunderstanding is that I'm a no vote. I want to get to yes.
The next question will be directed specifically to District 1, please. And Candidate Abbott, I'll ask you to go first. Historic preservation is an important issue to many residents. In what circumstances should it be determined by the property owner? And in what circumstances should it be determined by the neighborhood or the city?
Well, I happen to live next to a local landmarked building, and I've had nothing but bad experiences with that building since I moved here 10 years ago. And when I first moved here, it was just like a drug and prostitutes. It was very difficult for me when I first came here because the West End is supposed to be so crime-free, and everybody said, oh, it's a wonderful old building. So I think that a person who owns a property should be the one that decides if they want to have it deemed historic. And I would be very, I personally don't think that a third party should be able to come in and landmark your property. Thank you.
Candidate Gertis, same question, please.
Thank you. I'm biased, but I personally think that hotel looks the best it's looked in about 12 years. So historic preservation can do a lot of great things. I believe that an individual property owner should be able to landmark their own property. I believe that a third party should be able to request that a property owned by someone else is considered for historic designation, and the third-party process needs to be a process that's difficult and heavily laden with due process. That is hearings, communication, meetings, those kinds of things. And there ought to be a public vote on it of the property owners that are affected. Historic preservation is not just about preserving. Historic preservation is about economic development. Historical tourism is huge, and it's a very big economic driver.
Thank you, Candidate Gertis. Seeing no wild cards, we'll progress then next to District 5. And I will ask Candidate Garrett to please begin on this question. What should city government do to prevent the increasing car thefts in St. Petersburg?
We have a situation in the city of St. Petersburg in which we have 5 failing schools. I'm a strong advocate for early childhood education. If you want to save the future of our youth and our children, you must focus on early childhood education. The first 5 years of a child's life are its most important. That's when most of the brain growth occurs. If we can prepare these children and get them ready for school before they even get to first grade, we'll have a greater success rate. For every dollar you spend in early childhood education, you can get a return on your investment up to $18. That's how we help the youth of our community and also get them jobs. But right now, currently in our district, District 5, the vacancy rate in the shopping centers are approximately 20 to 60% vacant. And yet we are spending money, millions in the future, on a brick and mortar project that's not going to create as many jobs as the current shopping centers.
Thank you. Candidate Cornell.
Thank you. First of all, I think it's really important to make a distinction. Preschool is important. Early childhood education is absolutely important, but I doubt that there's very many 3- and 4-year-olds running around stealing those cars. They're a little bit older. So when you say early childhood education and let's stop there, you have not solved certain problems. It needs to be a cradle-to-career approach, including early childhood education, but like I did on council very vocally and very forcefully and in partnership with the Recreation Department, the YMCA, and the Art Club, we need to stand up to Tallahassee and say we want new money for early childhood education. Don't take it from after-school programs, because that is shooting yourself in the foot. Leaving a 6-year-old home alone to say you did a better job on early childhood education is the wrong approach. Cradle to career. We need to ask for more money from our state. They should be doing this. The city, again, cannot do everything, and the state needs to be a much better partner to the city in making that.
All right. And seeing no wild cards raised still, we'll move on to District 7 for the next question, and I will ask Candidate Newton to go first, please. And there's already been a little talk about our schools, and we recognize that education is, of course, primarily a county function. But what, if anything, do you believe should be the city's role in turning around the low-performing schools in our community?
Great question. We've all heard about the schools that are failing in the area and throughout the districts 6 and 7. Obviously, the city can reinforce and continue to fund and also increase funding, but they can reinforce the relationship we have currently with the Juvenile Welfare Board. That taxing agency has a lot of clout and could bring more pressure to bear, I believe, on the system that currently exists. But as Councilmember Cornell has just shared with you, even a few questions ago, it's going to be imperative that we have involvement from the parents, and we can't just make this an issue for the teachers. We want to make sure our children and our educators have a safe environment to be able to do their job, and we do have to address the systemic problem of poverty.
Thank you.
You know, the 5 failing factories, I have 3 grandkids that go to Melrose Elementary, and I am constantly there. I do my part. I'm on the PTA. I mentor the kids. I go to lunch and have lunch with not only my grandkids, but other kids as well. And one of the things that once you elect me to be your District 7 council member, I plan on doing is continuing to just engage more with the county school board. I am endorsed by school board member Renee Flowers, and they have some things that they are really looking at working to make sure that all of our kids are successful and get an education. You know, I could have easily transferred my grandkids out of Melrose and sent them somewhere else, but we are going to stay there, and we are going to be part of the solution that ensures that every kid gets a quality education. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing a couple of wild cards, I'll start with candidate Abbott first, and then go to candidate Garrett.
Even though the schools are under Pinellas County government, I happen to live down the street from Pasadena Fundamental Elementary School, and I took a look at their website and was astounded at how much help they would like to have. There are opportunities for anyone in the community to become a mentor. They're looking for people to drive the kids to field trips. They're looking for people to come in and just spend time with the children. So I took a walk down there today and took some art supplies that I had around my house, and I'm trying to encourage everybody in the neighborhood. I am the president of the historic Park Street neighborhood. I do the website. I'm encouraging them to participate more and volunteer. Thank you.
Candidate Garrett.
Yes, as a God-fearing man, family man, and father of 3 children from 3 years old to 13 years old, I am a teacher. I am a qualified teacher. And I say that in order to help these children, these youth, we're going to have to give them a lot of attention. For example, 44,634 youth were arrested in 2013 through 14 in the state of Florida. And 22,253 of them committed misdemeanors. These kids are out in the streets and they need things to do. Now, many will tout and say that the recreation departments are there and the city is doing a lot with the recreation departments, but yet the question is, what are we going to do with these youth and the problem in the schools? We must focus on the little 1 to 5 year olds as well as getting the youth attention, having things for them to do. One important thing would be jobs. So let's get these businesses going so that we can get these young people some jobs.
Thank you, candidate Garrett.
Well, I'll just pick that up. I think that's absolutely a great idea. I think giving those parents a living wage job matters, would be a great idea. And I don't consider a union a special interest. I consider a union the groups that stand up the hardest and the toughest to make that happen. And I think it's a great idea. Living wages. Fantastic idea, but you don't get that by smacking at the people and calling them names. You get that by working with people and making that happen. The other thing the city can do is, I think, really dig in to those neighborhoods and work on some of the core issues that are going into for kids that are going into those schools. For example, the 3,700 homeless kids, the 2,400 in St. Petersburg. How many are in those schools? If you're homeless, it's going to be difficult. So we could solve that right now. We should make that a goal. The city should make that a large goal, that we're going to end child and homelessness right now. Not in 5 years, not in 10 years, right now.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So the next question will be addressed to all candidates, please. The city of St. Petersburg has become a great city for the arts. Do you believe that we can also become a great city for technology? And if yes, should we? And if so, how?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, I mean, when I took office, I'm not an art person. I can't look at something and say it's beautiful or better than something else. But you know what I can see? I can see the economic activity that the arts community in St. Petersburg brings. We made a really good decision in St. Petersburg to fund the arts when the county wouldn't and the state wouldn't. And that made a big difference in us getting through the recession. When I was elected 4 years ago, we were talking about a technology, marine science, health science cluster, and we still are. We call it now the Innovation District in St. Petersburg. There is a committee put together, there is a plan, and this is part of the smart growth roadmap that I talked about in the answer to my first question. The Innovation District is what's going to bring those jobs here, and we can absolutely do it.
Thank you.
Well, I agree. We're a fabulous art town, and when I get a lot of company from out of town, especially in the winter, and they find out I'm living in beautiful St. Petersburg. In fact, I'm getting company this week, and one of the reasons they're coming is they want to go to the Dali, they want to see the Escher exhibit, and then we're going to do lunch and all these other things that are going on around town. But as far as technology and how to attract technology companies, I have a career and background, all of about 30, 35 years, public relations, marketing, and advertising. And you have to reach out to these different groups that you want to come here. And I have a lot of experience in doing that and explaining and enticing them as to why they should be here. Thank you.
We need to create an environment where, first of all, where our entrepreneurs will stay here. I think that's important. I think the arts and the technology can be very related. LumaStream's a good example. The gentleman who started the LumaStream company, which produces lighting, he invented that lighting for sculptures that he made. He's a sculptor. And that's a company that can grow and be a major corporation that is providing right now jobs in our city. I think that's very important. I think if we're going to be that, though, we are not going to do economic development without education. It's just not going to happen. We have to do both. And I'm meeting right now with St. Petersburg College. I've met with Dr. Law. I've met with Dr. Connolly. We are talking about revamping our summer youth employment program. We're going to increase it. We've already said yes to that. But we're talking about revamping it so that every student who comes through that will get some kind of industry certification by the time the summer's over. That's the kind of thing that will create the atmosphere and draw companies, but also some of those kids will start companies. That's when we're really going to be the full success that we can be.
Thank you.
We got to be careful when election time comes around and we keep hearing about what our leaders are going to do. And we have to make sure that we look back at the 5 years that have passed and know what has been done. In a lot of instances, the art-based community that we have, and it's a great art-based community. Our city, in other words, our city is art-based. And they are concerned about affordable rents right now. So we have to assure that our artists stay here long-term. And as we revitalize, keep in mind, market rates will increase. So we have to ensure that they are here as we bring in technology. Now, if and when and as we bring in technology, we must assure that the youth are included in this. They can be raised and educated to become technological professionals. That's my vision. And we can use CRA funds to do that. But we have to make sure that TIF funds aren't steered towards high-rise projects.
I agree with Councilman Cornell. Education is definitely important, and this could lead to our kids having some very successful jobs. And I was very excited when the 2016 budget had extra funding in for the arts. I am the honorary co-chair of the Florida Holocaust Museum project called Speak Up, Speak Now. And I don't know if many of you remember, but that was started when 8-year-old Paris Whitehead Hamilton was murdered in 2009. And that program has been continuing. And I made a promise to that family that I will always be a part of it, and I will make sure that it continues. Thank you.
Yes, we can use some of the same things we did to make the arts program a successful program in the tech side of the the house that we have here in St. Pete. I think you have to have an environment. I agree with Councilmember Cornell. You have to create an environment where you can entice folks to come in. We have a tract of land in District 7 now that we're looking at manufacturing and getting folks in like that, the smart growth route that we're doing. We can also make sure we get our Pinellas Technical College set up to be able to get those programs going. I'm very excited about it. I attended the opening for the St. Pete College right there in Midtown on the Deuces. We have a lot of things in place, I believe, that could move us towards being able to achieve the same success we were able to achieve with the arts program. So I'm encouraged.
Thank you. The next question will be for District 1, please, and we'll be starting with candidate Abbott. If the Rays remain competitive, do you think they can have success in the Tampa Bay area? And if so, why do you think they are not succeeding here?
Well, if the Rays remain competitive, I guess they didn't have such a good year this year, but not too long ago they made it to, I believe, the playoffs for the World Series. I think they can make it here. I think they can make it right where they're located. St. Pete is a different city right now from a few years ago when they wanted to have the waterfront stadium. I think that the proposed look, and the Rays have agreed to pay 50% of the land study for the area they're in now, that could persuade them that it is the best place to be, and hopefully they will stay here because they add so much to the diversity, the economy, besides art and technology. We have this fabulous Major League Baseball team, so I think they could really do well right where they're at. Thank you.
Candidate Gertis.
Yeah, I think whether they're competitive or not, they can be successful here. But we need to do some other things that won't just help the Rays, but will help some of these other subjects like bringing technology companies and other things. The first thing we need to do is get a transportation system that moves folks around and get cars off the road where people can go to a baseball game and know they'll be back home in a half an hour and they don't have to drive. We need to support a transit system, infrastructure that brings us into the 21st century instead of the 19th century so that we can not only make the Rays work, but complement and attract all these other businesses that we hope to land. Without a commitment to that, we're going to be second class when it comes to attracting those kinds of businesses.
Candidate Garrett, I see a wild card.
Yes, thank you so much. I consider the Rays of a regional interest. The Rays have proven that they are and can be a successful organization. I'm a sports fan. When you make it to the World Series and you make it to the playoffs and you contend year after year, you show that you're a successful organization. I think when you play in a stadium where you hit a pop fly and it hit the rafters, and then they have to spend 10 to 15 minutes to decide whether it's a double or a triple or a home run, that stadium is functionally obsolete. We need to support this team or give them a chance. And I firmly believe that right now we must give them a chance to research other sites. It is imperative that we do that. We cannot hold the business hostage for money. I believe in fair market, free market. So we must give them an opportunity to grow. And holding them here may not be the right decision.
Any additional wild cards on this question? Oh, you're so tempted. I know you are. Any wild cards? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next question for District 5, and candidate Garrett will ask you to answer first, please. How would you react to an allegation that the City of St. Petersburg HR department is discriminating based on race in the application process?
I would become an advocate for that process. In 2000, I experienced racism, but then again, as a descendant of slaves in this here country, I have not just experienced it, I lived discrimination on a regular basis. It's an issue that we have to address every day in our lives in this society. I would become an advocate to solve the issue, whatever it is. I've experienced racism in government offices. So I am firm when it comes to discrimination. I won't have it, and it shouldn't be in any government agency ever, especially during 2016. We should have gotten far beyond that.
Thank you. Candidate Cornell.
Discrimination is completely unacceptable. It's real, it happens, and it should not. And we should do everything within our power to make sure it does not happen. And I think anybody who's watched me for 6 years knows that I've done that on a variety of levels, that I do not tolerate any type of discrimination. I question things. Now, to be clear, under our charter, I would not have authority to fire anybody in a department. But if someone comes to me and shows me some evidence of discrimination, you better know I'm going to be loud and vocal. and I have been on many other issues. And I am going to use my power that I have, which is the bully pulpit, on that issue. I don't have direct authority, though. No council member does by the charter to say, you will do this. That power is reserved to the mayor by the charter.
Candidate Abbott?
Well, if it were true that Human Resources was discriminating in their promotion and other policies, I would like to say that I, too, as a woman, have experienced discrimination all of my life. And from what I understand, women are still making 77 cents to every man's dollar, which translates down the road at retirement time to quite a bit less to live on. But I understand that the City Council has a $50,000 budget that they can review or look into any department. And if this is being alleged, I think that's a good place to start and have a management review of human resources. Thank you.
Any additional wild cards? Seeing none, we'll move on to District 7. Candidate Newton, I'll ask you to answer first, please. What are your views on a regional transportation plan and the City of St. Petersburg's role within that plan?
Well, it's definitely something that we need. We have a unique opportunity with the position of our current Tropicana site, the DOT exit that sits there. We can move large volumes through and out of the city, but as it relates to the entire region, I believe we're going to have to examine all the options. Greenlight didn't quite make it through the process, but I think we can look at some other options. And I would be very supportive of at least taking a look at different options that would help fulfill the need of moving large volumes of people throughout this region that we're a part of. And I'd be supportive of once we could find something that would work.
Thank you.
You know, yes, Greenlight didn't make it, and a lot of people really did champion for that. We definitely need transportation. People have to get to work all different kind of hours. We need express buses from here to Tampa to Clearwater. I know people in my community that cannot work close to home. They have to work far, but because of our bus system, they can't get there, you know, and for the beaches and everything else. So I think what would be important is for us to work together to find a solution and make transportation better and work for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next audience question that's come in will be addressed to all candidates, please. And it's one that's especially near and dear to the League of Women Voters. And it says that since civics is no longer being taught in many of our schools, how can you help to encourage participation in democracy and our city government?
I take any opportunity I can to meet with students of all ages. I've hosted college students here at City Hall. I've hosted grade schoolers here at City Hall. I go to schools and take every opportunity I can to share with young people why it's important to be engaged and to pay attention and to understand what's going on and to play a role. Democracy doesn't work unless those of us who are participating are informed and we understand our obligation and our responsibility to participate. So I would encourage everyone who's in a position, whether they're a lawyer or an elected official or you're serving on a committee or a board or something, please make sure you invite or you make it known to teachers and others that you're available for that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Well, I think that just by running for a council position or any other government position is a huge way to get the word out there to people about voting process, and I have been amazed at how ill-informed our voting public is. I've been asked why I'm running against Jim Kennedy because of a mailer of mine apparently went to other districts, and it was like, he's up, he's got another 2 years, and I was a little surprised at that. Some people have no idea that there are 8 districts and that each council person is supposed to advocate for their 1 through 8 district, and then as a 8-member team go on and talk about the citywide problems. Another thing is mail ballots, but not enough time to talk about that.
Thank you.
I do a lot of the same things Councilman Gertis does. I go to every school that asks when I can. The times I have to say no is when I'm working, which is at another school. So I'm all about getting kids involved, but I'm also about getting adults more involved in their government and not feeling so disenfranchised. Blanche Gainey endorsed me. And when she said yes, I said, she said, do you have something you'd like me to say? And I said, no, I'd like you to say whatever you feel like saying about me. And what she said was along the lines of, Councilman Cornell is a council member who gets people engaged in the process. If you don't know something about the process, he will work with you. And that spoke volumes to me and means a lot to me. Because I'm all about that. One of the proudest moments I had on city council was when I saw one of the neighborhood associations in my district, 2 people walking in to go talk to their council members, and they had never done that before. It makes a difference, folks. When you speak out, it makes a huge difference. Keep doing it, and if you need something, call us. We're accessible. We answer.
Thank you.
As an African American in this nation, a lot of young African American men are faced with life or death situations on a regular basis. They're being approached in the street, and many are being murdered. And the question is, do they know their rights? In many towns, we have a population of, let's say, 70% African American, but the leadership would not be. In St. Petersburg, we have many appointed African Americans, but we don't have African American elected officials. So what we need to do and what I need to do is continue to talk to the young people, be it in the streets or be it in buildings. They must learn their rights. I carry around the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and I try to have a conversation and a discussion with young African American men about their rights. I think it's incredibly important for African American men to begin to talk to African American youth about their rights in this society.
I would definitely say education, and not only for the youth, but for the adult. Since I announced in January, I have engaged people that I know would not have been in the political process, coming to City Hall, and also at Melrose. We have a student council for our kids, and guess who's part of that? Me. And I do the Great American Teach-In, so I'm always using myself as a public servant to make sure that I'm giving back to the community, that I'm educating the community on issues and trying to get them involved, because it's important, because I didn't want no one to end up in the situation that I was in by waiting, until something knocks on your door to get you engaged. Thank you.
Yes, I believe we could do something to keep our people educated in democracy in the process. Something great that we did, me being a firefighter for 23 years for this city, I did a lot of the Great American Teach-In. And I think what the 2 seated council members are speaking about, we have the Take Your Kid to Work program, that kind of things. I think what we could do is make sure we get a mentor program Schools should go back on field trips. You know, these are real gray hairs. We used to go on field trips, and what better place to bring your students than here and want to be a part of the process. I know that does go on now, but we should probably encourage it at probably all levels of education. But education is definitely the key, and it's the key to most of what society ills are, and I would fully be a part of educating people about this process. It's a very important process.
Thank you. And since you've all been so efficient in your answering and so judicious with your use of wild cards, I'm going to give a couple more questions for everyone, please. And so we'll start back here with District 1, and this time we'll start with candidate Abbott, please. If elected, what would you do to advance clean energy use in our city?
Clean energy use in our city, that is very important. I read widely from East Coast to West Coast, the major newspapers, and a city can have a major impact on the greenhouse gases. Certainly we're talking about the producing our own methane from waste, and the transportation system. I heard the discussion about whether to buy electric buses or the like. Our policies should all go towards the least amount of carbon emissions. There's a lot of cities now that you have to wear a mask, you can hardly breathe in them, and that's verified by NASA satellites. So any decision that we make, solar, whatever, to reduce greenhouse gases. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Gertis.
Wow, there's a whole bunch of things we can do. We spend over $4 million a year, all of us, on fuel. All the city trucks that run around, all the cars and vehicles. So one thing we can do is reduce our expenditures, and we are doing that, or the plan is we've purchased 29 compressed natural gas garbage trucks, and we intend the whole fleet ultimately to be that way. So that's one example. But I can tell you what we've done concretely. We've created an Energy and Natural Resources Committee. It's chaired by Darden Rice, who's here tonight. And that committee is working on sustainability. How do we come together with a plan and implement the plan? Solar energy is something I'm sure Mr. Cornell will talk about in a minute. The compressed natural gas plant and other ways to stop using fossil fuels. We have to do it. We're on our way. We've institutionalized this priority.
Thank you. Candidate Garrett.
There's a saying a wise old man once told me, and it goes something like this: never dump waste where you eat. And in our case, what we need to do is get that tank built, pump that waste into that tank, convert it to natural gas, and allow the garbage trucks to use that. But we can't delay it. We must get those tanks done. We must get that sewerage system up, increase the quality of our lives and the sewerage system. In addition to that, I think we need green construction projects. We're still in the process of building downtown. And if we start working toward green projects and have incentives for green construction, I think we would be good in that area.
Thank you.
Could you repeat the question, please?
I can repeat the question. If elected, what would you do to advance clean energy use for the city?
Absolutely. So the question was not sewage, so I'll stick to the question. Solar energy. We have a vote on the Penny for Pinellas funding source coming up in 2017. I think it's imperative that we have solar energy looped in there. And we need to research it and make sure it's ready, but I'll tell you what makes me think that it is ready. Major companies, Great Bay distributors have done it, and they're having significant savings on their electric bills. For example, we spend about $1 million a year in our recreation department on electricity. If we could use money that's only for infrastructure and save 40%, that's $400,000 we can spend on other programs without raising a penny of new revenue. That makes sense to me. That's a good way for clean energy. It's a good way to fund other important programs like our youth employment programs, like preschool programs, all those kinds of things that I think are very important and that I've spent my whole life advocating for. So I think that's a win-win. I think that's an absolute win-win. I'll save it for next.
Candidate Newton.
Yeah, all of the above are great ideas. Obviously, I would work and continue to make sure that we reduce our carbon footprint. We've already talked about the different programs, but the solar energy, I think, would be a great next wave move for us. But I'm looking at it also from a job situation. You know, I think P-Tech is sitting there, and I refer to it as P-Tech because that's what it was when I attended 100 years ago. But you can set up a program there, and we could start moving from not only making sure we do something like that, but also create jobs in the process, sustainable employment that also helps the environment. I would always be mindful when passing budgets or making purchases that to the end of reducing our carbon footprint, that would be the important part, and that'd be my charge. And I join my two seated council members in their comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I would work with my constituents and community and educate them so that we can work together and institute programs that would make sure that we keep St. Pete green. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we'll move into our lightning round. And each one of these questions will be, we'll call them multiple choice. There'll be two choices. They may be yes, no, or they may be otherwise defined. And we'll start with you, Candidate Dutton. We'll move to this end and back and forth. Starting with Candidate Dutton. City council elections, should they be citywide or by districts only?
Yes.
Citywide or by districts only?
Citywide.
Districts only.
Citywide.
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 Okay. Next question. St. Pete Pride, walk or sit it out?
Walk. Have a blast.
Walk.
Absolutely walk.
Walk.
Walk. I've walked in it this year.
I would walk, and I'm endorsed by 3 of the openly.
Walk or sit it out? Unanimous. All right.
What are the options, huh?
In one word only, name your weakest character trait. Go.
Start with me.
Yes.
My good looks.
That was more than one word. We'll let it go.
I don't have any.
Garrett.
Yes.
Overwork.
I don't have any.
My weakest?
Yes, one word.
My weakest?
All right, moving on.
Optimism. Optimism.
All right, starting with you, Gertis. Higher minimum wage for our city, yes or no?
$15 an hour.
Yes or no?
We're getting there. Yes.
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 Labor leader, yes.
Unanimous again. All right, St. Pete, sea level rise. Run or let's go for a swim?
Go for a swim.
Swim.
I don't understand the question.
I don't, yeah.
Is it a problem or not a problem? Should we run or should we go for a swim?
Oh, goodness.
You're not going to get them right.
All right, for now.
Let's swim.
All right.
Better planning.
Prepare.
Yeah, prepare. It's coming.
Okay. Last lightning round question. Should we cap donations made to council campaigns, yes or no? Gertis.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Repeat that again.
Should we cap donations made to council campaigns, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I'll thank you all for a great lightning round. And now we'll be moving into our closing remarks. Based on the coin toss, we are going to be starting this evening with candidate Gertis, and we will move in succession. Each candidate, again, will have 1 minute and 30 seconds for closing remarks.
Thanks so much to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. If there's one group of people that advocates, supports, and carries out, they don't just talk to talk, they walk to walk. Thank you for putting this on. For those of you watching on television, thank you for participating and paying attention and trying to become informed. And for those of you here with us this evening, thank you very much. You know, it makes a big difference to us when we have people who are looking at us and in the room with us. It really does. Because this can drag on. And so when we see people who are actually interested, it helps a lot. So thank you very much. Look, we talked about some things tonight that are very cool. Historic preservation as an economic driver, art as an economic driver, sustainability, and alternative energies as economic drivers. These are the things that your city council has been working on the last 4 years. These are the things that got us through the recession in a way that people are moving here and loving our city. And we're going to keep doing that. Please give me a chance to continue helping the city that I love. Charlie Gertis, please elect me on November 3rd. Thank you.
Well, it's quite a unique experience to be sitting up here, and it feels good, and I like it, and I know I will do a wonderful job for all of you. Normally, I have been on the other side with the League of Women Voters. I have been a member way back when I was living in other cities, and been very active with the local league and take voting very seriously, and hope that by having these debates, we will get our consciousness up about vote, because it's what our troops are over there fighting for, and we seem to be not paying attention. I want to say a little bit about my background. I earned a bachelor's degree from the State University of New York College at Buffalo in education with an English minor, and I began a writing career spanning Fortune 500 companies and many nonprofit corporations. So I am very familiar with business and spent 35 years doing that. When I moved to St. Petersburg, I went back to school and got my paralegal degree from St. Pete College, an excellent place to go. And I have worked for abused and abandoned foster children. I am a voice for the voiceless and the vulnerable, and I will be a voice for you taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you for everybody for participating. This is not about me, it's about us. I've done nothing on city council. You have to work with colleagues, you have to work with neighborhood people, citizens. I'm going to give you a few of the things I've done, though, because I think that's a good way to judge a sitting city council member. I told you I would work for public safety. We created a citywide crime reduction program for apartment communities in response to citizens living in Mariners Point. That is now cleaned up. New jobs and a strong economy. In partnership with 5 neighborhood presidents and my colleagues on council, we started the Skyway Marina District. It's very positive for the city. It's very positive for South St. Petersburg that Jabal Circuit has now come in. That's good. That's a very positive thing. Creating opportunities for kids. I partnered with the Juvenile Welfare Board in response to concerns that have been ongoing for me. Schools are not a new concern for me. Kids are not a new concern for me. To create a 21st century learning program at every recreation center. And I told you I would work to protect our environment, and we got the Boyd Hill deal done. We're expanding Boyd Hill. That's a very positive thing. And so please ask your friends and neighbors about me if you don't know me. I have a 30-year history in this city. Let them tell you about me. You're going to find somebody that knows me. I've worked hard. I have a 30-year record. Ask around about it. And if you like what you hear, then I encourage you to vote for me. Thank you very much.
As we revitalize our city, we must assure that all residents are provided quality services, less taxes, and less fees. Since 1997, our water bill has gone up every year. Currently in my district, we have 3 shopping centers that are between 20 and 80% vacant. We must do something about those shopping centers to provide jobs for people in our district and in our city. The Skyway Marina District is a great project, but it's still in planning and it's still in works. And right now, for the past 5 years, we could have filled the shopping centers that are existing. It's going to be a tough task to have a high-rise come in, and yet we can't fill the shopping centers that are existing currently. We have a situation with our schools in our city, 5 failing schools, 2 in District 5. I want to work hard for my children. In addition to that, we have to make sure that our sewer system is safe and strong for the future. Also, I need you guys to tell 10 people about Philip Garrett and the fact that he is out to work for you, each and every one of you. to make sure your taxes are lower, your fees are lower, and the quality of life increases in our district as well as our city. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again to the Women League of Voters. I love coming to your forums. I'm humbly asking for your vote on November 3rd. I did not just wake up in June and decide that I wanted to run for city council. I have actually been in the city, in my community, advocating for residents and whatever issues they had to make sure that they are getting their issues solved. So I didn't just start this. People know me, I'm known in the community, and I'm known as a fighter, and that's what I plan to do. I have the endorsements of the Tampa Bay Times, the SEIU, Commissioner Ken Welch, Commissioner Pat Gerard, Councilman Carl Nurse and Darn Rice, who's right with us tonight, Stonewall Democrats, School Board Member Renee Flowers, Democratic Environmental Caucus, Ruthless, and also West Central Florida Federation of Labor. So on November 3rd, make sure to mark your ballot for Lisa Wheeler Brown. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm up. All right, well, it's critical. I want to thank you for this forum, first of all, but it's critical that you compare candidates. For over 2 decades, I served you as a St. Petersburg firefighter and EMT. I now negotiate multi-million-dollar contracts, and I teach leadership and negotiation techniques. You want to be safe in your schools and in your neighborhoods, and I feel the same way. You know, my life work was committed to public safety, and the men and women in uniform, they recognize that. That's why I'm endorsed by the Police Benevolent Association and the firefighters. Our city budget is over $2 million. You need a council member who will pay attention to detail, and that starts with accurately filling out your campaign finance reports. This is something my opponent obviously has not mastered. She used to be endorsed by the Tampa Tribune, but that was before they learned that she and her campaign treasurer misreported and misused donor funds. They revoked her endorsement, citing questions about her judgment, and now they're supporting me. Let me ask you a question. When is the last time you've seen that happen? My candidacy is endorsed by elected officials on both parties, including Mayor Baker, half of the current city council, incoming council member Ed Montanari. For 23 years, you trusted me to protect your lives and your property. I will be a city council member dedicated to you, your future, and your family's future. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to close tonight by thanking all of our candidates for being here and for sharing your views. And I'd also like to thank the City of St. Petersburg for hosting and sponsoring tonight's forum. And I'd like to thank all of you here in our audience for coming out tonight and for all of your participation. This concludes our program. Let's applaud all of our candidates for their willingness to stand for office.
Excellent.